Have you ever felt that silent pain that consumes you inside, even when you're smiling on the outside? It's like the weight of the world is on your shoulders, but you force yourself to look good to the world. Life demands, the environment demands it, and you, in an attempt not to show weakness, continue living under this invisible pressure. But you know what? This constant effort to not be hit by pain doesn't really make you stronger. On the contrary, it only reinforces the illusion of control. What you really need is not to shield yourself from the world, but to know yourself deeply. I know it sounds scary, but there is no true strength in running away. True strength comes from facing what we fear most, the pain we carry inside. Because while you try to avoid pain, it continues to control your life, your choices, your reactions. It's as if you are in a constant fight against something that you, yourself, fear facing. But the good news is that there is a way to stop suffering from it. When you understand what is affecting you and decide to give light to what is hidden within you, pain no longer has the power to bring you down. I know you've been through many difficult situations, and maybe you've tried to be perfect, too strong. But if you are tired of trying to please others and living a fake life, this video is an invitation for you to stop and look inside yourself. If you really want to free yourself from this constant pain, start now. Click on the sign up button and join us on this journey. Here on the channel, you will find more content that will transform the way you live, helping you understand that you don't need to be unbreakable. You just need to be whole. Shall we go together? Have you ever wondered why certain words, gestures, or even looks have the power to reach you so deeply, while other people don't seem to care about any of it? This happens because the pain you feel doesn't just come from the actions of others, but from something that is stored inside you. Sometimes external pain just activates internal wounds you didn't even know existed. Carl Jung talked about this in a way that may seem harsh but is liberating. What affects us in the external world is just a reflection of what we have not resolved internally. Imagine that every disappointment, every rejection, every cursed word you heard somehow triggers an old trauma, a forgotten memory. When someone hurts you, what really hurts is not what happened, but what that experience brings to the surface inside you. This pain, which you try to hide with pride or force, will not go away just because you ignore it. In fact, it is still there, waiting to be faced, and it is this confrontation with your inner pain that will allow you to free yourself. Jung teaches us that true transformation happens when we accept that pain is an inevitable part of life. It's not about avoiding pain or pretending it doesn't exist, but about understanding what it really wants to teach us. Only when you stop hiding from the painful parts of yourself will you be able to integrate these experiences and move forward in a lighter way. True strength is not in creating an emotional armor, but in embracing everything we are, including our flaws, fears, and traumas. Therefore, instead of protecting yourself from pain, try to understand it. When you learn to deal with it, pain stops being an enemy and becomes an ally. And it is exactly this path that we will explore together from now on. Have you ever stopped to think that, no matter how much you try to control the lives and reactions of others, this is something that is simply not within your power? Believe me, this impulse to want to control everything around you is an illusion. For a long time, you may have believed that if you were good enough, strong enough, or in complete control of your actions and feelings, the world around you would no longer hurt you. But the truth is, the more you try to control situations and people's behavior, the more your life becomes a constant battle, and this only brings more pain. Jung teaches us that the search for control is, in reality, an attempt to avoid suffering. The problem is that by trying to control everything and everyone, you end up creating an invisible barrier between you and true peace. Because life, my friends, cannot be controlled. It is unpredictable, full of surprises, and every attempt to avoid it only increases anxiety, fear, and tension. Now imagine for a moment if, instead of trying to control what happens around you, you just accepted what life brings. This does not mean becoming passive or negligent, but understanding that true freedom comes from freeing yourself from this constant pressure of wanting to predict the unpredictable. Instead of living in constant alert, you can start to live with more awareness, more acceptance, and most importantly, more inner peace. What you need is not more control, but more clarity. When you stop holding on to the idea that you can control the world and start looking within yourself, true transformation begins. The secret is awareness, not control. And when you start to live more consciously, nothing out there has the power to destabilize you. Now let's talk about something profound that you've probably never thought of this way. The real battle you face is not in the world around you, but within you. What happens in your unconscious, the things that you don't notice, don't understand and don't control, are in fact the true masters of your life. Carl Jung said something powerful. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it destiny. Isn't it incredible how we often feel hostage to situations and emotions that we can't control? This happens because most of the time we act on autopilot without realizing the invisible forces that control our reactions and choices. Have you ever felt that stress that appears out of nowhere? Or that sadness that appears without explanation? Well, this is not random. These feelings have origins deep within you, often linked to past traumas or unconscious fears that have never been addressed. When you don't see what's happening inside you, your unconscious begins to take the reins, and you feel helpless, without understanding why you act in a certain way. These repetitive behaviors, emotions, and thoughts are not random. They are reflections of what is stored in the back of your mind, waiting to be understood. Here's the point. The key to changing your life, to stopping feeling controlled by unexpected emotions or self-destructive patterns, is to make the unconscious become conscious. This means looking at the parts of your psyche that you avoid, understanding where your fears and frustrations come from, and then integrating those parts of yourself. Only when you understand what is really happening inside you will you be able to break the cycle of automatic reactions and start living more consciously. When you think about pain, what comes to mind? For most people, pain is synonymous with weakness, something that should be avoided at all costs. From a young age, we are taught not to cry, not to show suffering, as if this were a sign of weakness. But what you don't know is that this distorted view of pain may be preventing you from truly growing. Pain is not the end of the line. It is not a sign that you have failed, but that there is something deep within you that needs to be seen and understood. The big mistake we make is trying to escape the pain, thinking that it will disappear if we ignore it. The reality, however, is that the pain does not go away. She just disguises herself. It can turn into anxiety, anger, apathy, or even self-destructive behaviors that we can't always control. So what to do? What most people don't understand is that instead of running away from the pain, you need to invite the pain to sit, listen to what it has to say, and learn from it. Carl Jung, in his observations on the human psyche, said that pain is the messenger of the soul, the cry of the unconscious asking you to look inside yourself. When you start listening to the pain instead of running away from it, that's when true transformation happens. Pain is not an enemy to be defeated, but an opportunity for self-discovery. It takes us to a space of vulnerability, and it is in that space that real change happens. When you accept the pain and begin to process it, you finally free yourself from old patterns and become stronger. Therefore, instead of resisting suffering, learn to embrace it. He is one of your greatest allies on your journey of transformation, and in the end, it will lead you to a life with much more clarity and purpose. Many people believe that being unshakable means creating an emotional armor, closing yourself off from the world, becoming insensitive to the pains of life. However, being truly steadfast has nothing to do with creating barriers between yourself and the world. Contrary to what most people think, true strength does not come from resisting what happens around you, but from deeply accepting what exists within you. Being unshakable means being clear about who you are, and no matter how much life challenges you, you remain in balance with your own essence. Jung talks about the concept of individuation, the process of becoming who you really are, not what the world or others expect you to be. He teaches us that to truly be unbreakable, it is necessary to go beyond the facade of perfection and deal with everything we are, the good parts but also the dark parts, the fears, the insecurities, the flaws. When you integrate these parts of yourself, when you accept yourself completely, the pain of the outside world loses its ability to destroy you. Because deep down, you know who you are, and that's something no one can take away from you. True, strength comes not from resisting pain, but from accepting it, from integrating it. This doesn't mean being insensitive, but rather being at peace with your own vulnerability. When you accept yourself completely, when you know your limits and your shadows, there is no longer a need to prove anything to anyone. You are already whole, and therein lies true freedom. The freedom to be who you are, without fear of being judged, rejected, or challenged. Now, true transformation begins when you stop fighting yourself. It's not about creating a cloak of invulnerability, but about finding strength and acceptance. If you allow yourself to feel, grow, learn from mistakes, and embrace your shadows, you become unbreakable. You stop being controlled by circumstances and start living clearly, in harmony with what really matters, your own truth. Now, if this video has touched you in some way and you feel like you are ready to embrace your transformation, I invite you to subscribe to the channel and follow this journey of self-knowledge and self-transformation. By following the channel, you will have access to powerful content that will help you live a fuller life and at peace with yourself. Don't wait any longer. The transformation starts now, and you are on the right path to becoming the best version of yourself.